I am really excited to share with you the next panel. The next two panels I'll be presiding over, and I promise you that I will actually put together a timer to ensure that we do not go over for both. So we're going to kind of do a 2-for-1, where we're going to talk about the importance of your written introduction or your bio. And then part 2, after I finish with that section, is Coaches Matter. And my goal is to be able to share with you in the first panel why it's important to have a bio. I know that for many of our now part of our GODSU family, having a bio could have been the first time that you've ever had to have a bio, or you've ever been requested to have one. Most people have resumes and they want to turn that in. And oftentimes the reason why we allow candidates through the honors program to submit their resumes, because oftentimes that's what someone has. That's the only document that they have. But my goal throughout this panel is to showcase why it's important to have a one-pager, the way in which it elevates you, and more. And also share with you my secret sauce as to what I do for biographies in order to really not only be professional, but narrative and tell your story. And that actually goes well into what I'll be sharing in terms of storytelling with a purpose, this idea of having a story. And then we will continue part 2 with why coaches matter. And we have several coaches who are a part of our GODSU family who have actually graduated today and are part of the GODSU family officially. And so with that being said, I would like to not only talk about the importance of coaching, but also give them an opportunity to share what they are doing to help their clients as a way to network and also promote our alum here at GODSU. Okay, so with that being said, let us begin with the importance of a biography. So the question that I oftentimes hear, and I see too, is what is the purpose of a biography, right? I shared just a moment ago that oftentimes people go through life and they only have a resume. Something that Chancellor Dr. Diane always says that I think is very important is that you have a resume if you're looking for employment. Right. So if you want to get a job or you want to be considered for an opportunity, such as, like a fellowship, for example, you will need a resume, you will need a CV. But as speakers, as entrepreneurs, and as leaders, it's important to have a biography, because a biography can explain a lot more than what a resume often does. Think about your resume, because I know everyone on this line has had a resume. I have a resume, right? I have a title holder resume. I also have my academic resume, and then I have my professional resume as well for those people who want to know my professional background, since I started being an entrepreneur or working with GODSU or other organizations. When you look at a resume, oftentimes you see the professional background, right? You see awards, you see certificates. You may see some of the titles or the positions that that person has had, but it doesn't tell that person's story. A biography is an incredible tool to use at your disposal, because when you have a master copy document that is literally a living, breathing body of work that you have done, and you continue to update and continue to edify some of the accomplishments that you have, it really speaks for you. So instead of having to feel like, for example, oh my gosh, I have to brag about myself or my accomplishments, I don't like to do that. And something that I often share too, and I know Chancellor knows this as well, is that as servant leaders, we're oftentimes a bit hesitant or a bit reluctant to share what we've done, or we've been so busy doing the work. I was actually just talking to someone about this. Sometimes I'm so busy doing the work that I forgot that I actually accomplished what I wanted to do, or I got recognized. So for example, today, getting bestowed the very honor of being Woman of the Year with Interim Vice Chancellor Dr. Arlene Spann, I was just thinking, okay, let's try to end on time. Let's try to be able to start the Empower You conference next. But in between the break, I really took a moment to say, God has really blessed me with this honor, and be able to soak that in. And so as servant leaders, we are always, as Queen Mother says, we're always running fast. We're always running, and we don't quite stop to think about the work that we're doing.
Yes, that is so true. And I want to say that there are a couple of you on here who I met you based on your bio.
That's
We met
beautiful.
on LinkedIn,
Mhm.
and all I knew about you was what you put on your bio. And I've seen folks who have accomplished 40 years of work, and their bio is 2 lines. I'm such and such, and I do such and such.
Mhm.
And they're not impressive to me. And so, you know, I don't try to get to know them, because I figure if that's all that person thinks is important for someone to connect with them, they're going to be too much work, honey. That load is too heavy to lift. So when you have folks who, you know, have taken their time and thought it was important that they put a nice photo on, because I know that in your coaching, even for your bios, you insist that folks get a proper photo. She insists on it, or she won't work with you, because she's like, if you don't value what you look like and you don't understand that that's all people can see, you know, in order to connect with you, then you're just too hard of a client to deal with. You know, sometimes something is good, but it's too heavy. And you say, I can't be bothered. Just like I wanted to eat some pie with ice cream, and I looked at it and I said, man, that's about 3 days of work. I can't be bothered. And I went and got fruit. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing with people. If they're so unprepared, so not ready, you know, that is, you know, you want to help them, but it's too heavy, you can't be bothered. So the first thing that you all ought to do is contact Her Excellency Cairo, you know, text her at 301-793-0386 and say, you know what, can I get some help to bring my bio up to the level that you did for billionaire builder Dr. Michael B. Roberts? Check MSNBC, CNN, certified as, you know, have made over $1 billion. She did the bio also for His Excellency Dr. Bafo Ajabewa, ambassador of Nigeria. She's done it for several government officials in Africa, here, all over the world, you know, Jamaica, etc. But you have to understand that many times that's the only thing people are ever going to know about you.
Absolutely.
And so that has to be done just right. You don't take a chance with that. And even some of your elevator speeches, see, that was a test. I didn't tell you it was a test. If I say you have an elevator speech, you have 2 minutes, 1 minute about yourself, 1 minute about GODSU. Some people never mention anything about themselves. I never mentioned anything about GODSU. They were not specific. She does that also for politicians. She does it for business folks. She does it for ministry. She does it. She does a great job. This one lady ended up making over $1 million based on the work she did with her. So when someone asks you to do, you know, some type of speech, some type of presentation, if you're not on point, they're not going to call you back. You know, they'll say, oh, yeah, you did good. You wonder why. How come I didn't get a repeat call? You know why? Your speech wasn't tight. Your bio wasn't like hitting it. So I just stepped in to say that, and I'm gone. I just wanted to make sure, you know, so people know.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing that. And when it comes to biography, because this is, as I was saying, it's important to have a master copy, because some opportunities like speaking engagements call for a paragraph. So you have to be able to condense your life's work into a summary, you know, 1 paragraph summary. That being said, no matter how long your biography is, if it's 1 paragraph, or if it's 2 pages, if it's 5 pages, what I like to call my secret sauce is something that I've noticed in all biographies that I've seen, either from me writing them myself or being able to review other people's biographies. And what I like to call the secret sauce is combining this perfect sense of professional biography and also a narration or narrative, telling your story. And I'm going to talk a little bit about storytelling in just a moment, but I'll go over that sauce with you. It has 4 components, 4 seasonings. The first is philanthropic endeavors. Your philanthropic endeavors would be your community service. What makes you a servant leader? I've heard different people talking about the different ministries that they have, or do you have a youth program that you've created? How are you being able to serve your community? That's 1. Okay. And it showcases not just your professional career, as an entrepreneur or as an executive or as a leader, but it also shows the fact that you believe in giving back. And that is something that is not only well received, but it also makes you stand out. Because there could be 100 engineers, right? right, Dr. Muhammad Ali? But at the same time, what are you doing for preserving the Yoruba language and culture? That makes you stand out, and that will help me remember you among 99 other engineers. Okay, so the second is your background, and it's your cultural and academic background. When I say academic background, I mean, where did you go to school? What sort of degrees do you have? What is your educational experience? As it relates to cultural background, this is something that I've noticed a lot of my international clients really being passionate about sharing is where they come from, especially if they are, let's say, their children are first generation. So they came to this country as immigrants and they still feel connected to their country of origin. So they still have, for example, programs, or we have Dr. Rhoda Makinde, who has an initiative, a foundation where she's helping, different communities in Nigeria directly. That's where she came from. So she wants to tie back, but it's not just for international, international clients that I also ask what your cultural background is. Because, you never know. For example, we have alum who have come from very humble beginnings. And it's important to note that, because when you share your story, you're inspiring someone else with that message that, you know what, I came from here, but I was able to achieve all of these accomplishments to become the leader I am today. An example of this is the biography that I commissioned or I should say Chancellor Dr. Diane Moore Eubanks commissioned me to be able to produce. And it talks about how when the real estate market crashed, we lost everything, and how we had to, redirect our lives, and how she sought God for direction. That makes her story so much more unique and compelling. And as many of our alum many of our alum are speakers, or they are in speaking circuits, or they produce workshops, etc. Having that story, that very compelling story, allows people to not only be connected to you as an individual, but curious more about your the work that you're doing, or the final outcome in terms of the product that you have, or the company that you're running, etc. The third would be awards and certifications. Awards and certifications not only edify you, but it also adds to sort of validate the work that you have done, if you've been recognized, for example. So I could introduce myself and I could say that, my name is Her Excellency Cairo Eubanks, and I am the CEO of Cairo Speaks, Cairo Writes. And you'd say, okay, that's pretty great. You're 26 and you've accomplished, some of these different attributes, or these different achievements. But if I were to tell you, for example, that I received the Rising Star Award from my mayor last year, I received a mayoral proclamation. There are different certifications that I have as an international certified leadership coach, an executive coach as well. When you hear those certifications and those awards, doesn't it sound a little bit more like I know what I'm talking about? Wouldn't you be more willing to listen to me if I have other credentials or other awards where people have, acknowledged the work that I've done in the past? That would make you more willing to listen to me. It adds to my credibility. So we've talked about philanthropic endeavors. We've talked about cultural and academic background. We've talked about awards and certifications. And last, but certainly not least, what differentiates you from others in your field? So as I said before, with Dr. Tony Winfield, she shared her story earlier today about being a doctor of chiropractic, and that's an accomplishment within itself. But what differentiates her from her field? She's able to merge the spiritual care, right, with the physical care, and she's able to have a holistic approach using her background, her story, being able to create her own chiropractic practice, right? Being the first in her field, or being the first in her family, rather, to achieve some of the credentials, academic credentials that she has behind her name today. That differentiates her from others, because there could be doctors of chiropractic who did not necessarily have that experience, right? And so her story is more memorable. And taking the introduction or the bio one step further, so you have a living, breathing document, as I said, and it's nice to have a one pager because you can have that to, as I said, copy and paste. You can always extend the length of the bio. So let's say, for example, if you wanted to turn it into a 2-pager or 3-pager, or even use it as the basis for your book. And I've had people that I've worked with where I've been able to help them sort of expand their bio to create an ebook, for example. It helps to keep that one pager sort of as like an outline to be able to expound upon and say, oh, yes, I would like to share more information in this section about my childhood and upbringing. Now that I have a few sentences that sort of act to summarize, my childhood. But if I were to write a book, then I could be able to go more in depth, right? But being able to tell your story is taking it one step further, right? So being able to have a one-page bio that speaks for you is one, but then having a compelling story that really ties together your passion, your purpose, and also the products that you have, for example, or the services that you provide is really what takes you to the next level. And when you think about, for example, presentations where people are speaking and they talk and they share statistics and they say, 65% of Americans do, fill in the blank, or 33% of, of adopted pets are, whatever that statistic could be. It could be memorable, but what really makes it even more memorable and makes it something that is more persuasive in nature is being able to share this story, right? To be able to have the statistics, yes, but then have that personal touch where you're able to really engage with your audience. You're really able to connect with them on a step further than just what you do. You're sharing why you do it or how you came to do what you're doing, right? And in the Junior Ambassador Program, as I've shared before, we have a program that we're launching in March called Bringing the World to Florida. It's an international virtual student exchange program. And we're teaching young people, teenagers from 13 to 18 years old, how to share their story as a teen. This is a workshop and module. This is a module, I should say, that was developed as a result of creating workshops here for fellowship programs for the New Leaders Council, also for the United Way's Youth Leadership Institute programming. And then I've also been able to share this workshop with a grad school exploration program in the Midwest. That being said, I'm sharing this with you now because I believe that some of the information that I included in this excerpt from the 12 module program would be very helpful for us as adults to remember as well. Okay, and just to give you some context, I draw a connection or a link between the TED Talk that Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, who is the author of Americana, and she was also featured in Beyonce's Flawless remix. So she was the one who was speaking in the background and talking about some of the restrictions that women have faced throughout society. And I draw a parallel between her TED Talk that she did that has millions of views to a book by an author that she was inspired by called Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. And I see some people nodding, you may know what this is. And so just to give you some context before I play the video, Okonkwo is the protagonist of Things Fall Apart. And he has lived his life. He's very proud to be a leader within his village, and they live a very traditional way. This is like a fictional Nigerian village. And what happens is the first 2/3 of the book, the first 2/3 of the book are focused on Okonkwo and his story, his philosophies on life, the way that his life is in his village, his connections with his family and other community members, right? And then things fall apart when European missionaries come in and completely disrupt the way of life in which those villagers had been living. And unfortunately, Okonkwo dies by suicide. He could not take it any longer. He could not live seeing his village fall to shambles. And he did what was considered to be one of the most dishonorable ways to die in that village, in that culture. And he did it because he was so upset. So I give you that context to explain to you what I'm about to share in this excerpt. Just scroll down. And so as I'm going through and getting the window up for us to be able to see an excerpt from Storytelling with a Purpose, I just really want to just take a moment for you all to just sink in what I've been sharing about biographies. Think about the body of work that you have. Do you have a biography at this time, right? Do you have a biography that you're proud of that encapsulates all of the achievements that you've had over the last few days, weeks, months, years? Some people oftentimes forget to be able to update those biographies. And so with that being said, I just want to share with you that if you ever need any assistance with your biography, you are more than welcome to reach out to me. My information is info@Cairo, CAIRO, speaks.com. That's info@cairospeaks.com. And you can also reach me at 301-793-0386. That's 301-793-0386. And with that being said, I will share with you that there is a huge difference in the way in which Akwonko, who is the protagonist of Things Fall Apart, there's a difference between how he sees his village and how he sees his way of life, his culture, and then how it was written about by the district commissioner, who literally reduced hundreds of pages into just one paragraph, reducing his story to almost nothing, not even giving his name. I remember when I did this program for a fellowship group in the Midwest, there was a young lady who said, well, at least his story was being told. And I said, that's a good point, but let's look at it this way. Imagine that every chapter of your life, or let's go back. Let's say that every year that you are on this earth and you're living and breathing is a chapter. And you could have 11 chapters, you could have 18 chapters, you could have 90 chapters, right, in terms of your story. What if someone were to take all of those chapters and reduce it to one paragraph, using generalizations about you based off of your ethnicity or your nationality or your religious views or your political affiliation? What if someone were to reduce you all the way down to that and not even give your name? And I asked her that, and she said, I would be angry, I would be furious. How could someone do that to me? I have so many different varied experiences, and how could someone just bring me down to a sentence or two or a paragraph? And that is exactly the danger of a simple story. But the beautiful thing is that we get to take our power back. So instead of being whittled down, for example, I could say, okay, I'm going to end it right there so that we can stay on track. But I did want to take a moment to have you all just watch a little bit of Storytelling with a Purpose and what it is all about. Okay, and this is something that we're teaching 13 to 18-year-olds right now. It's important that I'm sharing with you, okay, how to write your biography, and that's important, but it's also important to share your story and to be able to help people join your cause or join your movement or join your programs by being compelling. That being said, if there are any questions that you have in the group chat, or if you have any questions, please add them to the group chat. I definitely want to hear from you all and get your feedback. But with that being said, as I shared with you all before, my story, a little bit of my story is that growing up, knowing my name, knowing what it meant, I was very curious about the world around me. And when I got an opportunity to study abroad, with Semester at Sea, I got excited because I realized that I could get to go to Senegal and get to go to Dakar finally. And while experiencing all of these different countries that I got to go and embrace while on my journey, I really learned the value of cultural exchange and realized that that's my passion. My passion is being able to facilitate conversations and to learn from other people and to take that knowledge and then share with the masses. And so that became the foundation, cultural exchange and living in India, as I shared yesterday, that became the foundation for bringing the world to Florida. And it's important to know that we have an opportunity here to bring the world to students, especially during this pandemic. And so with that being said, I really invite you all, I'm going to actually put in the group chat for everyone to see the link for Bringing the World to Florida. It's actually, the company is under Cairo Speaks, Cairo Writes, bringingtheglobe.com. And you can also be able to view our sponsorship packet. Our sponsorship packet is really an overview of what Bringing the World to Florida is about, our foundation, our mission, our vision, and more. Give me 1 second. I'm going to just type that in, and then we are going to transition over to the importance of coaching. And when I talk about, for example, the importance of providing exposure, access, and opportunity, exposure through leadership development in curriculum, just like Storytelling with a Purpose module, that's one of the 12 modules that we have. We also offer access. This is access to cultural exchange. So for example, there's so many kids who want to learn about other countries and maybe don't have the funds or the means to be able to travel abroad, so to speak, right? And at one time, as we shared earlier yesterday and even today, there was a time in my life where I didn't know that I would ever be able to travel abroad. And so the fact that I've had these opportunities, I've now said, it's important to now make sure that there's also access for anyone, regardless of their socioeconomic status or where they are in the world. And then opportunities, I've been able to leverage a lot of the committees and the different organizations that I'm a part of to provide conferences, workshops, seminars that they would normally not have access to. So that way any child can be able to succeed in any field. We'll be having our free conference and launch of Bringing the World to Florida on March 24th, 2022. At 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It'll be a virtual conference, and there's some information on the website, bringingtheglobe.com, or you can look to see the website links that I put in the chat. But I really encourage you all to read through the material, also read through the sponsorship packet to get, it's really, like I said, it's more of an overview of what we have accomplished and what we will be accomplishing, because our goal is to impact 5,000 teens by June 2023. Okay. So with that being said, and the last thing I wanted to share is that what I'm going to do also is that if you, for example, felt very much compelled to be able to support Bringing the Globe and support what we're doing, I also included a PayPal link. So please feel free to be able to support, and just know that the way that we have our program set up is that our goal is to provide the conferences and also the programming, the online curriculum that's self-paced, the access to the workshops, just all that information for free to students. And so we've offered the sponsorship packet to be able to provide those scholarships for those students. And the scholarship is $500 per student. And there also, there's more information in the packet that I can, rather than going over right now, I'd like for you all to be able to review at a different time.